Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Well, here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and I cannot wait for this show today. It is going to be a big one. And as you know, what a weekend it was in sports around South Louisiana. Let's start with the Saints and Falcons. It's rivalry week. It's always a big game, but this was even a little more special than Norman. You saw the score right there. You already knew it. 43-37, 9 lead changes in this game. Can you believe that? But by the way, it was the highest scoring 43-37 that's ever been in the history of this great rivalry. That's 80 full points, overtime win. Drew Brees was fantastic. 3 touchdowns through the air. He had a couple more on the ground, and this guy is averaging 350 yards rushing. He's got 8 touchdowns, and get this, 0 interceptions. But how about Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas? Let's start with Kamara. Over 430 total yards in 3 games. Are you kidding me? He's also got 3 touchdowns. He had 15 receptions last game. That is unbelievable for a running back. But speaking of receptions, Michael Thomas, none better. 38. He leads the NFL. He leads it in yards with just about 400. He's also got 3 touchdowns, but his 38 catches is only on 40 targets. That's nothing short of remarkable. Hey, Cam Jordan. He has 4 sacks. This guy's playing unbelievable football. He is tied for the lead. The Saints, even though their defense is struggling, are rolling right now with the 2-game win streak. The Giants are up next. Speaking of Matt Ryan, who plays for the Falcons, and the Giants, Eli Manning, who the Saints face this week, the only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history that put up 350-yard performance, 5 TDs, and 0 interceptions in a game and lost, well, both times were to Drew Brees and the Saints. But how about let's go to LSU. They played our friends from the north this weekend. That's right, Louisiana Tech, up there in Ruston. But the Bulldogs came down here and showed some fight. Although they went down 24-0, they cut that lead to 24-21 before the Tigers pulled away in this game 38-21. Got to give props to the 2 running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Nick Brossette, combined for 5 rushing TDs in this game. Ole Miss up next. Hey, congrats to the Nichols Colonels for ending a very long losing streak to the Sam Houston State Bearcats. Tim Brebo and quarterback Chase Forkay getting it done. Speaking of Nichols, Tulane Green Wave's only win was against them earlier in the season, but the Greenies had to go to Columbus, Ohio this week to face powerful top 5 ranked opponent Ohio State in Urban Meyer's first game back from a 3-game suspension. It went pretty much as expected as the Buckeyes took the doors off Tulane 49-6. In Lafayette, UL Raging Cajuns were shocked by Coastal Carolina, the school that surprised all of us by winning the NCAA baseball championship a couple years ago. They lost 30-28 in this game. Next up, no problem, Alabama Crimson Tide. Good luck there. Congrats to Southeastern and new head coach Frank Selfo for their first win of the season. And how about this? Kentucky, Duke, Syracuse are all undefeated after 4 weeks. And it's not even basketball. That's right, it's football. Hey, the pros had 3 shocking games. You had 17-point road underdog. They won that one. You had the Patriots. The underdog was the Bills, obviously, beating the heck out of the Vikings. The Patriots smoked winless Detroit, Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers. And we have a great show for you today. I cannot wait for this one. We're going to have Tiger Woods had the great win. We're going to have James Leitz He is the coach of the coach that coached him, his former swing coach. He's going to come on as well as Flethcer Mackel and Matt Moscona. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned for Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We have a fun show for you. James Leitz, he is a top 100 golf pro in the world. He's coming up next to talk about his connection to Tiger Woods. And also later in the show, Matt Moscona is going to tell you everything you want to know about the LSU Tigers and college football in general. But right now, the epic game of the week. And for Saints fans, it's usually epic every year, is when they play the Atlanta Falcons. And this year did not disappoint. 43-37 in overtime, the highest scoring game in this rivalry. And that's hard to believe, but these offenses were on fire. The defense is not so much. But we'll get into that in a little bit because I have Flethcer Mackel from WDSU, Channel 6. He's been doing that for almost 2 decades. And he is a big Pelicans fan as well. I shouldn't say Pelicans fan. He's not a fan of the media. But he loves basketball, loves the NBA, loves covering it. So we're going to get into that as well. Fletch, man, it's been almost a year, brother.
Has it been a year?
It's been almost a year. It's been about 9 months.
Wow.
I mean,
I wouldn't have thought it had been that long.
I don't have a ton of repeat, but I do like the guys like you who I like at least every 6 months or so.
I appreciate you having me. I just hadn't realized it. I see you, so I guess I see you at different sporting events and things, so it just didn't feel like it's been 9 months.
But we're here. And by the way, we both have a love of basketball. Mm-hmm. And yesterday you were at the Pelicans Media Day. Unfortunately, I planned on going, but I was preparing for my show the whole time, and I never made it. Kind of give people an overview of what happened yesterday. Yeah,
I mean, look, they're excited. Alvin Gentry said he thinks this is the best team that he's had since he got hired in New Orleans 3 years ago. I would agree with him. Anthony Davis entering year 7, and he's only 25 years old.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Drew Holiday, obviously 27 years old, right in the prime of his career. So a lot of optimism, but here's the thing. The West is just so loaded. I could truly make the argument that the Pelicans could finish 3, and they really could finish as high as 3.
Sure.
Davis could be the MVP, or they could finish 7 or 8 and go out in the first round. It's just, when you look at the Western Conference, we've said for so many years now.
I mean, with the Lakers and Denver involved, you could see them finishing 10th.
That's what I mean. You could see them missing the playoffs if they lose Davis for a 2 or 3 week stint. Jimmy Butler last year, Minnesota was in 4th place.
Right, yeah.
Jimmy Butler gets hurt.
Yeah.
They win on the last day of the season to finish 8 and just get in. One injury to a key player could swing the Western Conference 3 through 8 seed. I still think Golden State and Houston are kind of in a class above everybody else. Not so much Houston anymore, but definitely Golden State. And then 3 through 10 or 12, you could say, is just jumbled up. So I hope the Pelicans do well. I think they've got a good team. But again, the West is loaded.
Well, we're quick on that. Houston, because I
think the key guys that they lost, I think Ariza was a great defender for them. I think some of the players, Batamute, I think they lost some guys that were key cogs for what they did.
Yeah, good role players.
Yeah, bringing in Carmelo. Carmelo during the regular season may be fun because he'll jack up threes and he'll score. But when they have to play defense and grind in the playoffs, what is Carmelo's role? Is he anything more than Ryan Anderson, who didn't play for them in the playoffs?
That was crazy.
So I just wonder, is Houston, great season last year, number 1 in the Western Conference, but I feel like they may have taken, not a big step back, but just a little bit of a step back. They're still, I think, the second best team in the West, but I don't think they're as good as they were last year.
I do want to get to the Saints, but I got one more question for you. You did have a great interview. You had a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. That was lengthy with Alvin Gentry, the head coach of the Pelicans, who had been on the hot seat for a couple of years. And that little 32-14 run he had from mid-January till the end of the Blazers series, 32-14 is 32-14, and you did it without one of your 2 stars for most of that run. That has to be impressive in anybody's book.
No, without question. I think Alvin Gentry, even though he won't truly admit it, he knows in his heart of hearts he finally has a team that fits his style. Back to those Phoenix Suns 7 seconds or less days, a fast pace, fastest tempo in the NBA. Once they put Mirotic and Davis together and put Rondo as the main facilitator, it was something special to watch. So I would expect them to do more of that this year with Alfred Payton, who can get up and down the floor, Julius Randle, who's an athletic big man. I feel like Alvin Gentry really finally has the team and the style to fit what he wants to do.
I mean, I had Cheikh Diallo on the show last week, so he's emerging. You have Julius Randle, who's certainly emerging. Anthony Davis, superstar in the league. Nico Mirotic, a nice guy that is a stretch 4. And you also have Jahlil Okafor, who, by the way, was the 3rd pick in the draft. I know they're just hoping for something there, but that's 5 big men that aren't that bad.
No, and let me say this. I think that Mirotic, Davis, and Randle are going to eat up all the big men minutes.
Right.
Look, Cheikh Diallo is a nice player, but he's still developing, and there's still moments of frustration. Jahlil Okafor is still only 22 years old, so I certainly think that he could be a guy that certainly has a role on this team, but I don't expect it to be a big role. I think they're going to truly have Davis, Mirotic, Randle, and then whatever Okafor and Diallo give them is fine. But you're right, it's a lot of nice talent in the front court.
Don't you feel better about that coming off the bench occasionally than maybe Asik and Ajinça?
Yeah, without question.
I mean, honestly.
No, look, I think Omer Asik was the worst re-signing, and it almost cost Dell Demps his job.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that it should have cost him his job. He got a second chance, and he's made a lot of great moves since he got a second chance. But yeah, I think Jahlil Okafor and Cheikh Diallo is backup big men off the bench. I still think they may need a little more shooting, but right now I like the pieces they have, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Great analysis. Sometimes we all need second chances, right, Fletch?
Yeah. Look, in the world of pro sports, very few people get a second chance. Dell Demps has made the most of it.
Deal and Dell, I got to give him credit. Hey, let's move on to the Saints. Epic win. We all know what happened. What is your take on how this game turned out, and was it expected?
I'm glad the Saints won. I'll say that. I don't know if it was expected because Atlanta's good. I was at the game last year. My colleague Sharif Ishak was in Atlanta covering the game this year. Atlanta's pretty good at home. They were decimated by injuries, so I think it's a game New Orleans had to win because falling to 0-2 in the division is going to be tough to stomach. I certainly think there are a lot of issues in that defensive secondary that have to be cleaned up because they cannot continue. They scored 40 against Tampa and lost. They scored 43 and had to win in overtime. You cannot expect this. As great as Drew Brees is, what Kamara and Michael Thomas are doing is amazing, but you just can't expect that week in and week out and expect them to win games. They need that secondary and that defense to play better. Or Sean Payton's right when he said after week 1, this is a game that we played in seasons like this. When we played games like this against Tampa, we finished 7-9, 8-8. He's right. It's fun to watch, but they'll be an 8-8 team if they don't fix the
What
defense.
is the problem? I mean, obviously, when we know the one big thing is when a quarterback, and particularly a guy like Matt Ryan, who was just an MVP 2 years ago, he looks at sees 23 on one side of the field, he goes, oh, let me go to the other side. 26, 20, let's go for that guy. But it seems to be working. Where's the safety help, by the way?
Yeah, well, look, here's the thing. We talked about how great Marcus Williams was in training camp.
Right.
He was the MVP of training camp. He hasn't been the MVP in these 3 games. He had a nice turnover against Cleveland. That was a clutch play.
By the way, the only turnover, right?
Right, the only turnover the Saints have forced in 3 games. So it gets back to it. Cam Jordan's tied for the league lead in sacks right now. The Saints are good against the run right now. One of the best defenses against the
really
run.
Good.
Right, in the NFL. But the passing defense is just, they've allowed 10 passing touchdowns. So, and even Lattimore got destroyed by Mike Evans.
Yeah.
So
that was payback.
Yeah, it was a little payback. But look, like a boxer, you found the weak spot, and they just kept punching against Atlanta. P.J. Williams first, Ken Crawley, and Sean Payton always says, there's no Superman that's coming through the door to bail them out. They're going to get it done with these guys, or they're not going to get it done. So Marcus Williams needs to play better. P.J. Williams needs to play better. Maybe
Calvin Ridley didn't have a game like this at Alabama, and usually you put up big numbers in college. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a career game for him, and he had his 3rd game.
He's become the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year in one game against the Saints. But you're right. And so, look, Sterling Moore, the Saints are working out. Maybe they sign him, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do because teams, that's the blueprint. Don't think Eli Manning and Odell Beckham aren't going to be looking right at 26 or 20 or soft spots in that secondary and saying, hey, Saquon Barkley's nice, but Saints' run defense has been good. We're going to just follow the blueprint that all these other teams have laid out for us, and we're just going to pick on the weak link, and they'll only be as strong as their weakest link,
all right,
and that's a concern.
Speaking of picking on, we've been picking on them. Let's give the positive because they're plenty. Epic performances by Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas. I mean, let's start with Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, 15 receptions, 15, rushing, 15 carries.
Tough rushing yards, too, when they needed them.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is he's getting a ton of workload. You're going to need him at the end of the season because it's great right now.
Only one more game like this, though.
It's what?
It's only one more game.
It's only one more game. You're right. And then Mark Ingram can alleviate some of that load. You're right. But Alvin Kamara is fantastic. I know that Larry Holder with The Athletic said that, and I thought it was a great line, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are the best bargains in the NFL right now because they're on their rookie deals. And look at the production they have. Michael Thomas has caught more passes in the first 3 games than anybody in NFL history. Alvin Kamara is only the second player to have 15 receptions and 15 carries for more than 100 yards. And so it was fantastic. And Drew Brees is truly the ageless wonder. I mean, 3 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing.
Here's one.
Yeah, the spin move. Right. And so it's great stuff. But look, I always say this. Since Sean Payton and Drew Brees arrived in 2006, does anybody worry about the Saints offense? Sean Payton is an offensive innovator, and Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. And I think history will look back on Drew Brees and remember him in even more grand stature because of the numbers that he's thrown up. Some people take for granted what he's doing because he does it so consistently. But look, they're special on offense. They always have been. They always will be. And I know I don't want to pivot back to the defense.
But you will.
But that's what it is. If the defense for the Saints is middle of the road to good, the Saints go to the playoffs. The Saints have a chance to win and be special. If it's not, the Saints are 7-9, 8-8. It's just that simple.
Let's go back to Brees.
Okay.
Because, I mean, what we're seeing here is ridiculous. And I think one of the things that you made the point about he's going to remember more in the future is because I think he's always being compared to Brady and Manning, for the last 10, 15 years. And now it's Rodgers and Brady still. And everybody's like, well, these guys in the rest of the country's eyes are better. And if you go to Pittsburgh, they'll swear that Ben Roethlisberger is better because he's got 2 Super Bowl MVPs. But the fact is Drew Brees, without him, where would this franchise be? Because they do have some special players, but could they even have a winning season right now without him?
It's such a crazy hypothetical. It depends who the quarterback is. I mean, look, NFL is a quarterback
Teddy
league.
Bridgewater.
Maybe. I don't think they'd have the success that but here's the thing. The Saints have made the playoffs a lot recently, and that's one of the reasons why I think Brees doesn't get the respect.
Right, that's true.
Is because, look, until Rodgers got hurt last year, they went to the playoffs every year from 2009 through 2016, and they played in 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl. They don't miss the playoffs. Brady never misses the playoffs, 18 straight years, except the 1 year that he was injured, and they still went to the playoffs when he was injured. Roethlisberger, Pittsburgh's had a bump in the road here or there, but they don't miss back-to-back. No. The Saints missed 3 years straight in 4 or 5. So I think that's where the argument falls. It's not that Brees isn't great. It's that has the organization failed him a little bit for not putting a better all-around team around him, and that's what I've always said. And look, I think Brees, again, historically will be looked at as great, if not better than those guys, but I do think that's where the national perspective of Rodgers, Manning, Brady, even Roethlisberger, is because as a team, those teams have had more success and made the playoffs more than just the aerial circus of 7-9 when the Saints' defense is so bad.
I remember when Thomas was drafted, and before even training camp, it was 1 week of minicamp, and I remember watching him in practice and seeing him in the locker room, and I just remember saying this. I said, listen, because we all like to throw predictions out, but everybody was like, how good is he? And I threw one out that I felt strongly about, and obviously now everybody sees. I said, if he stays healthy and he remains a Saint for like more than 7 years or so, he's going to be the best they've ever had. He hadn't played it down. He hadn't gone to training camp yet. But I said, this guy is laser focused on his craft. I mean, I'm just watching him, and not just on the field, but in the locker room, the way he handled himself. And they're like, how do you even fathom saying that? I'm like, he wants to be the best. And it was easy for people to see it now because he's so good. Because he was the second. How many receivers were drafted ahead of him just in that draft?
Receiver.
In that draft alone.
Crazy.
And now he's considered one of the top 3 or 4 in the NFL.
The kid out of Ole Miss, Treadwell, went in the first round, and they showed in the first game against Tampa Bay, Michael Thomas had more receptions, 16, in the the first 2 games.
That he's had in his career?
That he's had in his career. The first 2 games when he had 28 or 29 receptions, it was more in 2 games than Treadwell had in his entire career. So look, Michael Thomas is special. I agree with you.
38 out of 40 targets he's caught.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's great. I mean,
he was 28 out of 30 last week. I'm like, that's and 10 for 10.
Yeah.
If you catch 60% of your targets, you're considered having a great year.
Look, that draft, I think, the 06 draft for the Saints, and I know we're running out of time, the 06 draft for the Saints was a special draft. It was the foundation of everything they've done. But I think the draft, the 2 drafts in 16 and 17 with Kamara and Thomas headlining that group on top of Lattimore and Sheldon Rankins and everybody else that goes with them, that may be what resets the Saints for success, and that could be looked at as 2 unbelievable years and arguably as good as the 06 year.
As I'm giving you this, I want you to let us know how you think because the heart of the schedule is coming up. We know that. But Task Performance, I know you're familiar. You haven't been here since we started giving these. Are you familiar with them?
Oh, yeah, I love Task.
Do you?
Yeah, it's great stuff. I will wear this. I can assure you. I go jogging 3 or 4 times a week. I love. Look, I jokingly say with my wife, I've got to stay away from their store on Magazine Street because my bank account would be 0.
Because it's that good, though.
It's great stuff. It's great.
I mean, hey, listen, that's not solicited. You said
No,
this is just going to get you a few glasses of wine with our boy Evan. You know, you starter. I know the Tad shirt's a big thing, but Shays Delashay's right there.
Sure.
On Maple, you're familiar with it, between Carrollton and Broadway. And by the way, you and your brother just celebrated a birthday recently.
I did.
You willing to say the age?
Yeah, I am 44 years old.
Wow, Fletch.
I know.
Amazing.
I've been at WDSU now 16 years. I still have the mentality of like a 22
No,
year old.
keep that, because I'm 9 years ahead of you, and I still have that same mentality as well. Fletcher Mackel, appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Tell Travers, and hey, congrats, you're a year plus into your marriage, right? The beautiful Megan, Mark? Megan Mackel?
Yeah.
So. I'm like getting the royal family mixed up here. All right, thank you, brother. Hey, coming up next, I told you we have James Leitz coming. He is 6 degrees from Tiger Woods. Tiger had that great weekend, finished second in the FedEx Cup, and won his first PGA Tour title in literally 5 years, and he's got 80 now total, 2 away from Sam Snead's career record. Also, coming up later, Matt Moscona from ESPN Baton Rouge is going to join us to talk about LSU's 4-0 start. And is it for real? That's coming up next on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style and fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with belts, shirts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of the people from the Crescent City. Tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.
The owners of the Delachey's Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachay, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachay, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We're going to take a little respite from the football just for now. Don't worry, LSU fans, we're going to get to you in a second. Matt Moscona is coming up. I want to thank Flethcer Mackel for filling us in on the New Orleans Saints. But man, oh man, did you watch what happened this weekend? I've seen a lot of golf in my time. I grew up watching the game, played a little bit of it, not very good, but I don't know if I've ever seen a green going up to 18. I've seen the video of the Arnold Palmers and the Jack Nicklauses back in the day. But when everybody at Eastlake, which I'm very familiar with, I've even played there because I lived in Atlanta for 20 years and had some friends that belonged. But when they followed Tiger onto 18 at the Tour Championship, it was magic. And I got to tell you, it was special. I got goosebumps watching it. But I have a guy, we have a 6 degree of separation right here. James Leitz is the golf pro at Chafuncta Golf Club. And I'm going to tell you this right now. This man knows his golf. He's a golf lifer. And he actually became friends with Sean Foley, the golf swing coach, the former golf swing coach of Tiger Woods, and the current golf swing coach of the FedEx Cup winner, the FedEx champion, Justin Rose. But James Leitz is here to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show. First time on Primetime Sports. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Our mutual friend, Kelly Gibson, who was a PGA pro himself, and I went to high school with him. We'll have him on occasionally. when some big stuff in golf happens. And he said, man, I'm going to Ireland tomorrow. He opened a new course, which would have been yesterday. But I got just the guy for you, James Leitz. And I'm going to say this real quick. Tell us your background. I know you're a New Orleanian, but tell us your background, why you got into golf and why you remained in it for so long.
Well, when I was 13 years old, I actually had a football offer to go play at John Curtis, and I picked up golf, and my parents moved us to the North Shore into Lacombe, and oh my God, was it culture shock moving from New Orleans to Lacombe.
Oh yeah.
And then I just fell in love with golf, and I never looked back, and that was 45 years ago.
How'd you pick the first club up?
My dad had one in the back seat of a car, and a friend of his gave him. My dad never played golf, and my dad had a bad back, so I said, Dad, can I try it? And he goes, sure. And I'm telling you, within 10 minutes, I was in love.
That's how you got hooked.
Yes.
I bet you could have played some college football, but instead you played college golf at Nichols, and they had a great program back in the day.
No, actually it was McNeese State.
McNeese State. You're at
McNeese State, but it was I was very, very, very great time in my life. To play college golf was a dream of mine. I was on a very good team. I wasn't the reason they were good, but we were pretty good.
Sorry about the McNeese. No wonder we were having the Lake Charles confusion earlier. I was thinking you were talking about Nichols, McNeese State over there in Lake Charles. Hey, my apologies to all you Lake Charles folks, because I know y'all are all good people. Hey, but real quick, there is a connection to Tiger Woods here, and I want people to understand it, because Sean Foley, I mentioned that a second ago, that he was his golf swing coach, his swing coach for about 4 years or so, back from 2010 to 14, and now he is Justin Rose's coach. But the fact is he watched a video of you explaining something, and I don't want to get too technical, but kind of give people the background of that.
Well, in 2011, I had built and invented a model to explain how the club hits the ball and why the ball flies where it flies. Because when the ball curves, there's a reason for it to curve.
Right.
And there's a science behind it. And Dr. Theodore Jurgensen wrote a book called The Physics of Golf. And I read the book, even though I never took physics. I created a model to show how it worked. And then I was asked to speak at the National Coaching and Teaching Summit in Florida. And then that kind of unveiled that model. And the world just exploded. Sean Foley called me. I was able to spend some days with him and Tiger. This is in 2011, and it was really, really a lot of fun to be in that circle. We worked together at Core Golf Academy in Orlando. We actually taught the Russian national golf team together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so when you're watching on Sunday, you watch things a little differently, I think, than obviously the average casual golf fan. When you're watching Tiger do his thing, I mean, you've seen when he was phenomenal back, and he was the Michael Jordan of golf, obviously. Do you surprised at all at this comeback?
No. If he was healthy, I said if he's healthy, he's coming back the whole time. I said if he's not healthy, he won't. The only other little glitch, if you remember, about 2 years ago, he couldn't chip the ball on the green from 10 feet off the green. That is a very difficult thing to overcome, and he did. And I'm telling you, what he's done is amazing.
When you say he couldn't chip off the green, explain that. Mentally?
Well, he'd be 10 foot off the green, and he'd hit the ground first, and the ball wouldn't even go to the green. He wouldn't even get it on the green.
I mean, this is Tiger Woods we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
This should explain how difficult the game of golf is, when one of the greatest, if not the greatest, is having problems with that. That doesn't help the rest of us.
No, it's a simple task, and all of a sudden you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that'll put self-doubt in anybody, and to overcome that is amazing. Usually that's the end of everybody's career when they have the yips with chipping or putting.
Well, it's funny you say the word yips, because I relate it to baseball, and it's happened with, there's a catcher that couldn't get it back to the mound.
Absolutely.
Mackie Sasser, and then there's a couple pitchers that there were great pitchers in the day, and all of a sudden they couldn't throw a strike at all, not even one, and that helps when you're pitching, by the way, to throw a strike or two. So the fact is, I get it, but when you hear a Superman like Tiger Woods not being able to do it, it's something else. When you talk about what he did this weekend, though, in the magnitude of, because he hasn't won a tournament literally since 2013. He won his 80th PGA Tour tournament. He's got 14 majors, as everybody knows. But, the record is 82 for those of you who don't know. 82 Sam Snead has as overall PGA Tour wins. Do you feel good about him getting that record now?
Oh, the 82 is a lock unless he gets hurt again.
The 14 to 18
14
majors?
to 18 is a little bit
That's
different.
Jack Nicklaus has the 18.
Because of his age and so forth, nothing he does would surprise me. One of the things people don't realize, before he got in all of his troubles, hitting the fire hydrant and all, he had won 33% of his starts.
That's crazy.
The next best in golf history was Ben Hogan at 18%, and Jack Nicklaus at 13%. He lapped the field before that moment in his career. No one was even close.
33% of his
correct.
starts before he hit the fire hydrant.
That's correct.
That was a good way to put it.
That was a biggie.
Before the fire hydrant incident. And let's go to Justin Rose, because explain what the FedEx standings mean compared to like just winning a tournament. Like, give people that don't know what this means and how do you win?
Well, for starters, the FedEx Cup is a year-long points list to determine who gets in the original tournament. And the first tournament, it's a bigger field and they cut it down. And then the second tournament, and the third and the fourth, and finally the fourth tournament does only 30. So Tiger didn't have enough points going into it to catch up. Well, he wound up finishing second, and he was way behind when he started. I think he was from 20th to second is where he went to.
That's crazy.
It is, but he's the greatest golfer that's ever played the game. Now, we can argue that Nicklaus maybe had a better career as of now because of his majors, but I think Tiger's the best golfer. It's like who jumped the highest in high jump. He's the best high jumper of all time. Who
best
ran the
of all
fastest
time.
mile. Tiger Woods was the best golfer.
What makes him the best of all time?
His percentage of winning was unbelievable. And not only that, Tiger played the hardest golf courses with the toughest fields his whole career. I'm not saying that Jack Nicklaus didn't play very difficult tournaments, because he did, but Jack would play different, smaller events that Tiger never played.
The run on, I had an early game. I'm away on weekends and do football games, and we got out early, and everybody's like, you got to turn on Tiger. I mean, he was on a roll. He got 6 out of 7 birdies.
Yes.
I mean, at East Lake. I mean, I've been to East Lake. It is not easy. I've walked the course with Retief Goosen and Zach Johnson back when I was the honorary chairman of that tournament once. And it is ridiculously tough. And when I hear 6 out of 7 birdies from any golfer, I get it, he's Tiger Woods. That's remarkable, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think us as regular golfers, sometimes something's trouble when you hit it crooked, but when you hit it in the fairway and hit it on the green, it's not. So he was hitting the golf ball so straight, and he was putting. He made over 100 feet of putts, more than one round, and tour average is about 72 feet of putts in 18 holes. So
wow.
he holds some putts.
Let's talk about Justin Rose. I mean, because when you talk about the best golfers, I mean, he's certainly in that class. I'm not going to go out and say he's the best right now, but he did win the FedEx this year. Rate him among the other golfers, like the Dustin Johnsons and the ones you think are great.
Well, start off with, he's a wonderful, great player. He is #1 in the world, I think, after this particular event. It's all he's wanted to be. Sean Foley and I are very good friends, and he said, James, Justin has one big goal, and that's to be #1 in the world. And he's
a good
attained
goal.
that. It is. And he's a lot more quiet, so he's not as flashy as some of the other guys, maybe to some people. But he's an amazing ball striker. I mean, he is an amazing ball striker. He's a hard worker. And there's a lot of hard workers, though, that don't do what he's done. And he struggled putting sometimes from about 8 feet to 4 feet, not making as many as he should. And he's a wonderful putter from 15 feet and out. So his putting is what's kept him. If he'd have putted like Tiger Woods, you'd have never heard of Tiger Woods, because he's as good a ball striker. I
got to give you some props, though. You're the only golf pro in the world, top 100 golf pro, top 100 golf fitter, club fitter. That's remarkable. You were top 50 at one time, but let me say this. You are seriously one of the greats in this business. Explain and tell us about that.
Well, it's a blessing from God. How
about that picture? That's Pink Floyd right there.
You know, who would have thought when I was playing that record in 1973 that in 2016 I'd be giving Roger Waters a golf lesson.
Roger Waters.
I would have never dreamt that in my life.
Right.
And so golf has been so great to me. And the business is phenomenal. The people are good. It's a blessing that you can do what you love every day. And I do it, and I love the teaching side. I love teaching with technology. I love learning. I still love learning today.
Tchefuncte, I see you representing with the shirt, Tchefuncte Country Club. I mean, that is a great club. I mean, tell me about that one.
Well, it's an honor to be their golf professional. I've been there 3.5 years after being at Pinewood Country Club for 33 years.
Wow.
And I love it there. It's a great atmosphere. The members are wonderful. It's a very unique place. It's a very high demand area for people wanting to live. And, I plan to spend all of my days left in the golf business there.
You got a good spot. Hey, real quick, I want to continue with the golf because we talked about Justin, we talked about Tiger. What is your take with Phil and Tiger's relationship? I know they have this big thing coming up, and I don't need to get necessarily into that Thanksgiving Day duel they have, but everybody needs a rival. And I know Tiger obviously has had the best of this, but Phil Mickelson has been a worthy adversary over the years. Nobody's Tiger. But Phil's kind of the guy that's been kind of getting into him a little bit. They rib each other a good bit. They're friends, but they're also, I don't want to say enemies, but on the golf course, they go at it hard.
For starters, I haven't met a PGA Tour player that plays on the tour that really isn't competitive. Those guys are competitive, just like in any sport at a professional level. Start off with Tiger's, even right now, Tiger's at about 22% of wins percentage. And
they're
Phil's
ultra competitive, though, right?
Yeah, Phil's at 7.
Yeah.
So, yes. And look, if there wasn't no Tiger Woods, Phil would have been Arnold Palmer.
Right.
And so he's a wonderful golfer. He's got an edge to him. He's not scared to kind of mix it up a little bit and talk a little bit. And that's all wonderful. I think that's, to a certain level, it's good for the game. Golf will never really accept total trash talking.
Right.
But it's okay to have a little bit of a push here and there. So it's going to be exciting.
These two people kind of add to each other's game a little bit. I mean, because Tiger was so dominant for a while, and nobody, but at least he had somebody that wasn't scared. For a while, nobody wanted to say anything, and he was kind of fun. Let's just say that, put that way. And I remember when Tiger put the green jacket on him, and I remember when Phil put the green jacket back on Tiger. I mean, that was always kind of fun to me, because I remember the first time I saw Phil win. I remember this vividly because I've been to the Masters 11 times, but I was not at that one. And I was living in Atlanta at the time, and that's when HD TVs came out. And I just remember, watching Phil's winning putt. I'm not sure if it was 18 or 17, but the one that went in, it curved, and and they showed that great shot, and I could see every blade of grass, and I felt like I was there, and I saw the joy in Phil's face was remarkable.
He is a very entertaining player, sometimes to his own demise, and. But again, that's good for golf. I'm so glad Tiger's back, and I hope his health stays for a long time. We'll see what happens with that 19 majors.
James, I wish the best. Yeah, 19 is what he's going for. That's 5 more, though. He hasn't won one of those in a decade. I'm telling you what, I'm rooting for him. I'm a big Tiger fan. I was a big Jack fan as well. But here's a shirt called Task Performance. I know you like that soft stuff that when
Absolutely.
You go play golf.
I know it well. It's a wonderful brand.
You do know it well.
Absolutely.
All right, and if you get down to New Orleans, it's called Chez de la Chez. It's uptown by the River Bend on Maple Street. So check that out. And
Thank
James,
you so
I appreciate you coming on short notice.
Absolutely.
Because I got the fever this weekend again. I said, I got to get somebody that knows a lot about golf, and I hit a home run with you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. That's James Leitz. Check it out. Hey, maybe you can go get a lesson too. Top 100 in the world. He's right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, coming up next, we're going to have some LSU talk with Matt Moscona. I say Moscona, but some say Moscona. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
She had to go simply because, and I'll let her go like she never was. She had to go because she didn't know who Scott Alexander was.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I love the Saints talk and a little bit of Pels with Flethcer Mackel earlier. And James Leitz, how about that? And the connection to Tiger Woods and how great is he doing? That was a lot of fun for me. I love the game of golf. Hey, but LSU football is near and dear to my heart, and I've got the man to speak about it. He is on ESPN every single day in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and now Alexandria as well. He does all kind of other things. It's on CST right here where you can watch it as well, too. But he also does some LSU pre- and post-game, too. But here he is. His name is Matt Moscona, and we're going to learn everything going on with the 4-0 LSU Tigers. What is up, my friend?
Scott, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks so much for the invite.
Look how great you look, dude.
Can you believe it? I keep a jacket tucked away in the back, in the recesses of the closet just for special occasions like this.
I've seen you a bunch on TV because I love that show. I really do.
Thank you.
I really have not gotten into anybody on radio doing a TV show on radio, but this one's entertaining. But 90% of the time I see you is with the ESPN garb. You're representing, but you dress up nice, my friend.
I appreciate it, man. It's with the ABC, they always be closing, always be representing a brand or something. But
be closing.
But you never know, man. It's it's great. I go to work every day and I get to wear jeans and a golf shirt. It's fun. It's great work if you can get it. You know what I mean? But every now and again you have to Have to have the duds.
You got to do it up. Let me prop you up a bit because your guys are killing it up there. And I mean that. I mean, Gordy Rush is kind of running the show, the afternoon show, the morning shows. You're killing it right now.
You know, I'm very fortunate, man. I believe you follow good management, and good management will lead to all the other good things. And Gordy took a chance on me 9 years ago, offered me the afternoon drive slot whenever they launched ESPN Baton Rouge on a little 5,000-watt FM station that you could barely hear down the street.
You were in your 20s at the time.
I was.
Nice.
I was in my 20s. And it's just been one of those sort of patient growth opportunities. You and I were talking, like I said, like you didn't take a vacation in 2 years. I was similar, worked every day for almost 3 years before I took a vacation. But, you know, I think one of the great things about it, Scott, has just been the commitment to doing a professional-sounding sports station top to bottom, which is something that I know our market in Baton Rouge didn't have. And I'm just fortunate that New Orleans and Alexandria and other affiliates, CST, have recognized it too, and they've liked the product and come on board as well. It's been more than I probably ever could have imagined.
Well, I knew Jimmy Ott, who does one of your late morning shows with Charles Hannegriff. I knew him in college, and he had been on the radio for a long time, and I knew he finally was buckled under and joined you guys, and I know he can't be happier now. And, of course, T-Bob and Jordy are two of my very good friends as well. Love those guys in the morning. Check them out. But your CST show, I got to give you props because shows, like I said, that are on TV, that are radio shows, never really did much for me. But I can't believe the amount of production quality that you guys put into this show. It really shows.
When we were launching our TV, our video studio, and our over-the-top stream, the whole commitment was to make it as professional looking as possible. So we did a lot of scout visits to Bristol, to other radio groups that were doing TV as well, to find and sort of pick the best ideas. The graphics that we use are actually outsourced to the same company that does ESPN's graphics. So
it's phenomenal.
It's why you get a lot of that pop. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there was just a commitment made by management that if you're going to do it, go all in. Like don't dip your toes in the water, do a cannonball into the deep end, and it's worked.
Because I've been at some big stations around the country, and I'm like, I know what goes on behind the scenes. I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, what do they have over there? Because a lot of the stuff I've seen is like one camera and really nothing else, but y'all have video support and everything. It's phenomenal. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Tigers, right? And by the way, Gordy, that's at least give him a 20% raise. We've just popped you guys good. Hey, let's talk about the Tigers. My guy.
Getting me money, man. I love it.
4-0. I mean, where can I go? Let me just open it broadly. The Tigers are 4-0. It's easy to say that was unexpected, but why are they 4-0?
Because they're playing great defense and special teams. The offense had a total remake. Steve Ensminger, new coordinator. Joe Burrow, new quarterback. You lose Geisen Williams, Shark, and Gage, your top two running backs, top two receivers. You lose three starting offensive linemen. It's a whole new offense.
It's a whole new offense.
And look, they're 110th in the country right now in passing offense. Like, they're still finding their way. They're 11th in the SEC in total offense, 13th in passing offense. Like, it's statistically not great, but you don't turn the ball over. You play great defense. You control the game through field position and special teams. I know that's all cliched, but it's how they're doing it. Look at the Auburn game. The first score they got was a short field score coming off the Grant Delpit interception.
Sure.
It's like that's what they're doing. They're dominating field position, protecting the football, and scoring when they get in the red zone.
You know what's blown me away a little bit, and it's going to be even affected more this week, is the offensive line has just been such a makeshift situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose Ingram early on. You had, Will Clapp went to the pros early. You can't blame him. He's with the Saints. But each week it seems like something is happening. Now Brumfield might be out or is out. I'm not even sure.
He is,
How are they doing this? How are they doing? Because that was already kind of a question mark in my mind.
4 games, 4 different offensive line combinations. This week against Ole Miss, it'll be a 5th game and a 5th different combination.
I mean, Sadiq is out as well?
Sadiq, they hope, is back this week. So Sadiq Charles starting left tackle, and they hope he's going to return this week. I never got clarity on why. It was a discipline thing in week 2 against Southeastern.
Right, okay.
This past week, he was there on the sideline in his jersey and wind pants. So I don't think it was discipline. It was an injury, but they never got clarification as to what it was. But he's the difference maker, right? And he's one of those guys where people don't really know the name yet because Sadiq Charles wasn't the 5-star #1 tackle in the country, but
true freshman and played a lot last year.
He started week 1 against BYU as a true freshman at right guard, then ultimately played left tackle when KJ Malone went down.
Sure. Scott,
he's a guy that's going to be a top 60 NFL draft pick. I mean, he's not just a a guy manning the left tackle spot in the SEC.
Trey Turner top.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
So
He's a
when
dude.
when he's there, they're basically telling him, okay, you're not getting any help on the left side. Go man it.
Can I say something funny about you saying he's a dude? That, I've used the word dude for my entire life, and I was called dude for a while because of it. But I've noticed this year in coaches' meetings, because we go and do the meetings on Fridays when we go to our games, and Scott Frost started off with the first week, the new coach in Nebraska, talking about he's a dude. And the way he looked in his eyes, like, okay, this must mean he is special. But every week, the coaches are all saying, oh, he's a dude. He's a dude. So when did this he's a dude become vernacular for he's one of the good ones?
Blame Ashton Kutcher, dude, where's my car? I don't know, man. I don't know when that became a thing, but
and most people at home probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm hearing it nonstop now, and you just said it.
He's
so
a
you
dude.
picked up on it.
It's absolutely a thing. Now, I think do you find like coaches, even if you're into your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, like working with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old like college athletes, it keeps them young in their vernacular and all things. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. Like kids are saying it, that's what the coaches are saying.
I had two of them this week who, by the way, I'm going to give you some back history. Harbaugh and Frost. Okay, Frost is struggling. They have but he took UCF from 0-12 to 13-0 in 2 years, and remarkable. But you remember in '97, and you were young then, but
I remember the team for sure.
I remember vividly the game when Nebraska beat the pants off of Tennessee and Peyton Manning, and it looked like at that point Nebraska had won a title in '94, won in '95. Frost quarterbacked in '96 when they were 11-2, and they said they want to run him out of town. Yeah. Now they would make him the governor. But the fact is that he comes in our meeting, and Harbaugh, he says something at the end of the game. He says, hey, he looked at the TV, and I know Harbaugh wasn't at Michigan anymore, but he says, would you rather play Michigan right now, or would you rather play us? And I think I know the answer is Michigan, because Michigan's never forgotten that, because they split the title that year, both undefeated, '97, Michigan won. So Harbaugh brings that up, and he says, like, hey, man, yeah, we're going to get him, and we're going to get him good. And so they didn't let up. It was 39-0 at the half, and they finally let up when it was 56-3.
That's interesting. Yeah,
but
that '97
those are
season,
two competitive dudes, man.
Yeah, and '97. So you brought up '97. Of course, that was when Brian Greasy won the Rose Bowl with Michigan. They beat Ryan Leaf and Washington State. What ended up being a great game.
The losing quarterbacks in those two games were from 1 and 2 in the draft.
Yeah,
obviously
for sure.
Manning and
the Orange
Leaf,
Bowl.
right.
Yeah. If you would have told 15-year-old Matt in 1997 that Nebraska was going to be wholly irrelevant in football, I'd have punched you in the face.
You'd have punched me.
I'd say, like, stop lying. Get away from me, you evil temptress. Like, they just, for me, like, they were so dominant.
They had to be for you because, you were 94, 95, and 97 they won.
Yeah.
And I've said this because from 70, let's go to 69. I can even go to 62 because they have way more wins from 62 to, say, 2001 than anybody.
Yeah.
Like about 40 more than Bama even. But I always used to do 70 to 2000. My point is if you get that 3 or 4 decade, they're the best team.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, you could have some arguments with Alabama, but Alabama was really bad in the 90s. You could have some arguments to Oklahoma, maybe Miami's little run during that stretch, but that's the thing. They have become somewhat irrelevant, and not even somewhat. They're irrelevant right now.
But I think a big part of that is just how television has changed college football because everybody has distribution now. You no longer, if you're Nebraska or Notre Dame or Michigan, you no longer have the recruiting advantage you once did of being on TV every single week. Everybody's on TV every week now. So if you're in an area where you're not a recruiting hotbed, and Lincoln, Nebraska is not a recruiting hotbed. It's hard to get kids to go to the Midwest. I mean, try bringing a kid on a recruiting visit to Lincoln, Nebraska in November.
You got to get him in September.
You know what I mean?
Get him in there in September where it's nice.
It's the same with South Bend. It's the same with Ann Arbor. It's all those schools, man. It's just the playing field has been leveled to where Central Florida can get kids and go 12-0 now.
Yeah, they do have a large number from California. They got to get that back. Let's go to the Tigers right now. At the risk of sounding like a homer, because I try not to do that, and I know you're very good at not doing that.
Too good.
Yeah, too good. No, my point is that I made a lot of comments in the preseason that, hey, I know they don't have a lot coming back, but the fact is will we even be having these discussions whether they could win 7 games or not? If they had Cole Tracy last year, I didn't know who Cole Tracy was at the time, but I said if they had a field goal kicker that could win a game, and the fact is, Troy, and Notre Dame. You're 11-2.
Yeah.
Instead of 9-4. I know that would have, coulda, shoulda game sucks, but the fact is that we'll be even having these discussions, and I kept saying it's almost insulting to me that you think that they can't win 8 games when they're the only Power 5 conference team that has done so every year since 2000.
I think a big part of it isn't so much the personnel or the talent. I think you looked at some of the deficiencies and the question marks. Like when you go into a preseason, a lot of times, I know I gauge my preseason expectations based on what you have coming back and what your schedule looks like.
Yeah.
And LSU lost a ton, and their schedule is brutal.
Right.
You know, last year, it's another thing where I think it's sort of like a misnomer where we say, hey, well, they won 9 games. So they were a breath away from winning 10 or 11. And that's true, but LSU won 2 games last year against teams that finished with a winning record. 2. One was the Auburn game, and they needed a damn miracle to come back and win that game.
Right.
And 2 was A&M, who fired its coach. Finished 7-5 and fired its coach. So you won 9, but how did that 9 look, right? You had a blowout loss to Mississippi State. You lost to Troy. You lost again to Alabama. So I get it. And you look at the schedule, and you see, Georgia rotate. Tennessee rotates off. Georgia rotates on. You got Miami, a top 10 team in the season.
I know, I hear you.
It's just for me, it was so much looking at the schedule, saying this team may end up being better than last year, talent-wise.
Right.
But you just look at that schedule.
It was rough.
And what they had to
Still
replace,
rough.
it's still rough.
Still rough. I mean, that stretch you got. Well, Ole Miss, I mean, by the way, you said that LSU ranks near the bottom in scoring. Let's just talk about this Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
I know they got run by Alabama. Let's just put Alabama out. That's Alabama. Ole Miss can score points. I mean, they have some NFL receivers on that team. They have a quarterback that might be an NFL player himself in Tamu. Preview this game because they can put points on the board.
Last year's Ole Miss game changed when Shea Patterson hurt his knee against LSU, and Tamu came in.
Yeah.
And that's when Ole Miss started churning. They got 3 NFL wide receivers and a quarterback that can sling it. And the biggest question for LSU defensively right now is, 1, pressuring the quarterback since Chasson got hurt, and 2, who plays corner opposite Greedy. Because basically what teams are doing right now is they're looking at 29 at Greedy Williams and going, all right, and going to the other side of the field and throwing over there.
Just like the people that play the Saints.
That's exactly
same
right.
Thing.
It's like the same thing.
I mean, 26 and 20? Let's do it.
Like Greedy Williams right now, the passer rating against is like 8.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because nobody.
Put that in perspective. 8.
8.
Like 80 is not really great for college.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah. Greedy is awesome, and everybody knows it, so nobody throws at him. So I look at Ole Miss and I go, fine, all right, let's say Greedy locks down A.J. Brown. Okay, well, then who handles DeMarcus Lodge? Who handles DK Metcalf? And it's like,
tight end's pretty good too.
Yeah, man. It's just I could understand if the defense isn't playing its best game Saturday, and LSU has to score. That's the type of game you don't want to play against Ole Miss because they can score.
They can score.
And if you make Burrow sit back there and sling it 40 times.
You're a realist, and I love that. So let's preview real quick, and I'm running out of time. I can't believe it. We need an hour. Let's preview kind of the stretch they have. I mean, the Florida, Mississippi State, Georgia before that, Alabama. That's tough 5. Then you got A&M following it.
Yeah. I think what we've seen so far in the SEC this year is whatever you think you know, you probably don't.
You don't know.
Except for Alabama's awesome.
Yeah.
A&M's proven to be better than most thought. How about Kentucky just pile driving Mississippi State this past weekend and winning at Florida? I think the depth of the SEC is back, which it wasn't 2 years ago, Scott. 2 years ago, the SEC was not a deep conference. I would have said both the Big Ten and the ACC were better. But can Ole Miss outscore LSU? Sure. Could LSU lose in Gainesville? Plausible. You mentioned the 3-game stretch with Georgia, State, Bama. It doesn't get easy. I could still see 3 or 4 losses lingering out there. They probably go 9-3. Because the Auburn win was spectacular. I think they're going to keep getting better, but so many pitfalls out there.
Real quick, I want people to know what else you do. Obviously, your show's on CST from 3 to 6. It's obviously on ESPN New Orleans, 100.3, 104.5, and 104.9 simulcast in Baton Rouge. And I'm not sure in Alexandria, you're brand new there. Congratulations.
Thank
you.
But
the LSU stuff you do on the weekends, you've been doing stuff, but now you added the television part. Explain that.
Yeah, so Eagle 98.1 Game Day. It's the flagship pregame, and we simulcast it on video as well, so you can get it on our over-the-top streaming service.
Is that simulcast in New Orleans as well, 870?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. So, but it's the Baton Rouge flagship, Eagle 98.1 on the pregame show. Me and T-Bob, actually. So 5 hours prior to kickoff.
T-Bob Hebert.
Me and T-Bob in a studio
That's a long
together.
time.
Me and T-Bob.
Do you have Star Wars socks?
No. There's a lot of, as you can understand, I have to rein him in.
Yeah, well, he's something else. Hey, don't rein in. You take your beautiful wife here. This is in New Orleans.
Awesome.
It's called Chez de la Chez, and this is something new since you've been on. Feel this. Have you had task before?
I haven't, no.
Oh, my goodness.
Look at
Feel
that.
it.
Oh, that's
Just feel
beautiful.
it. This is like, I hate to keep saying this, but I have to harp on it because everybody loves Sean Payton. Everybody loves Drew Brees. If you see them in press conferences, this is what they're always wearing.
That's phenomenal. Is that his brand?
It's not. It's the guy that
phenomenal.
The guy that actually was an All-American at Tulane. By the way, here's a little step for you. The guy that owns his name, Al Andrews. He is the last player in Tulane athletics to get All SEC when Tulane was still in the conference back in the day. Great guy. And by the way, prayers for him. He's having prostate surgery today. So anyway, thank you, brother.
Hey, man, thank you for the invite.
I appreciate it. I mean, I looked up and it was like 10, 9, 8. And I'm like, we're out of time. Hey, I've got to go right now. We're going to have another big show for you next week. I appreciate Flethcer Mackel. Thank you, James Leitz. And also my producer, Will Hild, Naila Jones, and the Redhead Tsunami, and everybody at CST and WLAE. We'll see you again next week on Primetime Sports.